Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I apologize for the delay. We've had a little bit of computer problems here, but we'll call this meeting to order. This is for January the 17th, 2023. It's a regular meeting of Manitou Springs City Council, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Yes. City Council members, Judith Chandler,
Present.
John Shada, Julie Wolf,
Here.
Natalie Johnson,
Here.
Michelle Weatherholt,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Fortune,
Present.
and Mayor John Graham.
Present. Thank you. Okay, council, I think everybody's had a chance to review the agenda, so I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second. I'd like to pull one thing off of the consent calendar, but is that a different vote?
That's a different vote.
Okay.
Yeah. So the motion before us now is just to approve the agenda, and when we come to the consent calendar, that can be handled separately. Okay, so let's go ahead and vote.
Seven to zero in favor.
Okay, great. We can get on with business. Sounds good. Next item is public comment on non-agenda items. And I believe we have someone who'd like to speak to a non-agenda item this evening. So if you'd come forward, you'll notice there's a button on the microphone. You'll need to press that and see the light go green. You need to have the microphone about 3 inches from your mouth. And if you'd start off by giving us your name and your address, and if you could keep your remarks to 3 minutes, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
My name is Sequoia Benhart, and my address is 819 Manitou Avenue, Manitou Springs. I am here today to bring up the issue of residential parking permits for residents of the Barker House. We currently do not qualify for residential parking permits, which is extremely frustrating, seeing as we are residents of Manitou Springs. I was alerted that the reason for this is that there are quite a few people who live in Barker House, and there were concerns that there is not enough parking in the neighborhood behind Barker House. Personally, I have observed that there is significant parking in the residential permit parking spaces that are available to residents. And I would just like to bring this to the city council's attention to hopefully get this addressed and help out the folks who live there who would like to be able to park near their home.
Okay, thank you. Roy, I think this naturally falls to you. So if you would take whatever action you need to.
Yes, if I can get your information, I'll be happy to reach out. We can look at the situation. All right, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sequoia. So do you have anyone else who wants to speak? We have any emails? Okay.
That was the only one I
Okay,
received.
great. All right, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the consent calendar. So tonight's consent calendar has 4 items. First, approval of the January 3rd, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Second, presentation of warrants. Third, approval of U.S. Geological Survey joint funding agreement for the operation and maintenance of gauges in the Waldo Burn Scar area. Fourth, resolution number 0323, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Manitou Springs, Colorado, expressing the intent of the city to be reimbursed for certain expenses related to the construction of water improvements. And Julie, you had expressed an interest in removing an item.
Number 4, please.
Okay, number 4. All righty. Do any other councilors have concerns about the first 3? Okay, in that case, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar items 1, 2, and 3. Item 4 will be taken off and discussed immediately after we handle the consent calendar.
So moved.
Do we have a motion to approve and accept? Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded, okay. All in favor? We'll vote aye, we'll vote green. Or...
7 to 0 in favor.
Okay, great, thank you. So items 1, 2, and 3 of the consent calendar are approved. We will now discuss what was item 4 on consent calendar, the resolution for certain expenses related to construction of water improvements. Julie, you had a concern, so why don't you start off?
Yeah, I just wasn't clear because I didn't know who issuer was. There's no definition of the issuer in the resolution. So is this a loan? Or is this a grant? Or I wasn't clear on where the monies were coming from that will be reimbursed after we shell them out.
Okay, we have our finance director here, Becca Davis. So Becca, perhaps you
Yeah.
could respond to that, provide a little clarification.
My apologies for the lack of clarification. So this resolution is for the water treatment plant improvements so that we can begin the improvements before we obtain the loan from the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority. This way we can start the work, then we get the loan, we reimburse the Water Enterprise Fund with the loan funding. We had to pull the resolution off the consent calendar anyway, because it had an incorrect number for the loan amount, which has now been corrected on the resolution that was on the table in front of you. And it's been corrected to $2,773,260. Also, the date had to be corrected to January 17th.
Denise, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of things. When we did the DOLA application, this is a requirement that we apply for this loan in order to get the DOLA funding. And the next time we will do that is April, and we are up for $1 million grant for that, but this was required that we fill this out. The other thing is there's a chance that this loan will have some forgiveness, but we won't know that until we get the loan. So the issuer is the loan, and it's the Colorado Water, the one that she mentioned, that we have to go through. So this is a requirement for us to ask for any DOLA funding.
Also, please know, just because we are in our pre-qualification application, we're asking for $2,773,260 doesn't mean that's the amount we're going to end up with at the end. If we get the $1 million grant, we'll reduce this down to, $1,773,260. But it's very easy to decrease the amount as you go through the loan process. It's very difficult to increase it. So it's always best to go for the full amount. And then as you get grants and things, then you can pare it down.
And obviously, there's no prepayment penalty of any kind here. Okay. I didn't think so.
Sorry, Julie, you had a follow on.
Thank you. So the issuer is the Colorado, whatever.
Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority, commonly known as CWRPDA.
And is that identified here in the revised resolution that you gave us? Because if not, I really think we need to have a whereas. We identify the project, the council, the city, the charter, and Article 20, but we don't say what's issuer.
Yeah, I just used a boilerplate from Jeff for last year's when we did this for the
So we're all
Clarksley.
supposed to know that issuer means the Colorado blah, blah department thing that you just said.
I don't have a problem adding it.
If I were to make a motion to add one more whereas, or whatever you want to call it, definition section that says the issuer is the Colorado, whatever you said,
Mhm.
would that cause you any heartburn if we just put that in there?
None at all.
So what's the exact wording again?
Okay, so it's the Colorado, God, now I can't even say it. Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority.
Is it empower or and power?
And Colorado Water Resources and Power, excuse my Texas accent.
Okay. Authority. Okay. Thank you. In that case, may I make a motion?
Yes, go ahead.
I move to approve resolution 30323. Subject to additional language stating that the issuer herein is the Colorado Water Resources and Power Authority. And that can go after the whereas that defines the project.
Second?
Seconded by Counselor Chandler. And Judy, were you able to jot that down or get the wording there sufficiently? Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on this? Apparently not. We can go ahead and vote then.
Seven to zero in favor.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Becca. That was
Thank you.
That was helpful to have those insights. Okay. Let's see. Next item, G1, presentation, proclamation number 0123. Proclamation of the City of Manitou Springs recognizing and celebrating the centennial of Pikes Peak Ataman Club. This one hits close to home, so I'm going to go ahead and read it, and I appreciate your patience with this. Proclamation of the City of Manitou Springs recognizing and celebrating the centennial of the Pikes Peak Ataman Club. Whereas the Pikes Peak Ataman Club has a proud century-long tradition of welcoming the new year in a unique and unmatched fashion, and whereas this eccentric adventure is an important annual celebration for the Pikes Peak region that brings happiness to many people and is a source of vicarious frivolity that helps flavor the community's special identity. And whereas for 100 years, this tradition has been undaunted by foul weather and unimpaired by common sense. And whereas for the entire century of its existence, Ataman climbers have elected to begin from Manitou Springs. Their choice is the last vestige of civilization before ascending America's mountain. And whereas this unique, quirky, and in fact odd, the unique, quirky, and in fact odd nature of the club resonates deeply with the people of Manitou Springs and strikes a chord deep in our communal heart. Now, therefore, be it ordained, the City of Manitou Springs does hereby commend the club on its heritage and wishes its continued well-being long into the future. Hand carried and presented to the club on the summit of Pikes Peak, December 31, 2022. Dated the 17th day of January, 2023 in the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado. I will mention that Governor Paulus declared a statewide proclamation for the Ataman Club, but they did not bother to even mail a copy. I think it was emails. It was not hand delivered to the summit of Pikes Peak. This was. So Manitou is again setting the stage for how things should be done. Thank you. Okay, so let's go on here.
But I'd like to thank Governor Paulus for recognizing the Ataman Club nonetheless.
No, you're right. That was a generous move, and in fact, members of the club that night did express their appreciation to it. Okay, item 2, Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments and Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority update. I think you all know that I attend those I'm the city's liaison to those two organizations, and I thought it would probably be useful to provide occasional updates to City Council. This won't take too long, but I'm gonna just whip through this, let you know a few high-level things. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them at some point. There might be some deeper digging that we need to go into. PPACG addresses a lot of transportation issues. They have a section that addresses aging issues. And then, of course, there's political matters here. So from last week's meeting, the good news is Manitou was awarded $400,000. There was extra transportation alternatives program funds at the end of the year. And so member jurisdictions were invited to apply. Dole Grebnick, our city engineer, realized this. He jumped on it, and we were awarded the $400,000 last week. This would require a $100,000 match. I think Dole had talked to the OSAC people. They said they could. My understanding is they're willing to do that. Now, it may be that the city has more pressing needs, but at least that's the way things unfolded last week. So that's good news. When $400,000 falls out of heaven, it's not a bad day. Mountain Metro, among other things, they announced that they're going to buy 2 battery electric buses, and these will be used for Route 3. That's from downtown Colorado Springs to Manitou. This is going to be a test. Those will be the first 2 totally electric buses they have. They're also buying 2 gas electric hybrid buses that they'll test elsewhere in Colorado Springs. This will also enable the bus company to provide increased frequency to on that route. I think currently the wait times are 30-minute wait times now. That'll be moved up to 15 minutes. Could we have the next slide? And this I think is interesting. This was a listing of the routes that Mountain Metro has. There actually, you'll see some missing numbers, and there have been some routes that they've been discontinued during COVID. There's been a shortage of drivers. It's been hard for the bus company to keep drivers during the pandemic. A lot of them had concerns about their health. The passengers were not always cooperative, so they kind of struggled, but they're getting back to strength. So some of those routes will be brought back. Anyway, the three there that are outlined, those are the ones that we all know and love from Manitou. And if you look over on the right, you see the 2019 ridership in the 2020. You'll notice those three routes are pretty heavily used. I think there's just Route 11, the World Arena competes. It's right now a little under 200,000 riders a year. The incline is actually in excess of that. So I guess the incline carries the most riders of any route in the Mountain Metro bus system. You can see that's a 94% recovery rate from what we had pre-pandemic in 2019. Route 3, the connecting downtown Colorado Springs with Manitou, is also pretty heavily used. So when you look at those other routes in Colorado Springs, they're not nearly as busy as the two that really two of the ones that serve Manitou. And Route 36 is also gets reasonably good use. So I thought you might be interested in that. Could we have the next slide? Okay, volunteer positions. There are 5 committees within PPACG that have openings for Manitou residents. The Regional Advisory on Aging, Commission on Aging. We have a Mobility Coordinating Committee. Probably in my mind, one of the more important ones is the Air Quality Technical Committee, and then the Water Quality Management Committee. So if you know of anyone in the community who'd be interested in serving on any of those positions, let me know. That would be a good representation for Manitou. The Yellow Book has been published. The Yellow Book is basically, it's a yellow pages or a directory for senior services. Those are free. They're available at the library. They're almost an inch thick. People who use them tell me that they're very helpful. So if you have, and this is an aging, graying community. So there are probably some services there that would help people here in town. One of the volunteers that we have had is going off the board. He was on the Citizens Advisory Committee. That's Steve Hart. So he received a certificate of appreciation. And Steve has had a long history of community service in Manitou. He was on city council. At one time, he was for many years a fireman, and he was our fire chief, I believe. In fact, he was the fire chief when the Cliff House burned. So he's quite the veteran of public service. Next slide. Okay, and I'm trying to condense basically about 4 hours of meetings into 5 minutes or less. There was quite an interesting presentation on traffic safety and traffic crashes. And the real takeaway on that was that seriously aggressive driving has become, law enforcement's worst nightmare when it comes to traffic behavior. A decade ago, driving while impaired was the leading cause of reckless driving offenses. Now it's aggressive driving, and just aggravated aggressive people. That's even supplanting impaired driving, drunk driving and so forth. So it's a huge issue. The kinds of things that we sometimes use to address traffic problems, like better engineering, better roads, better EMS services, and education, they've made some progress, but it's really been offset by aggressive driving. So that's a huge concern. CDOT had mentioned it was in a separate briefing some time ago. They were talking about Highway 24 is going to have increasing numbers of vehicles on it. So the volume of traffic and the trend towards aggressive driving, I think, is something of concern for Manitou. PPACG also created some smart drive videos, talks about the consequences of impaired or aggressive driving. So perhaps Alex can make those available to the public. Do we have another slide? Is that it? Air quality. Okay, and this may be something that it could come up, and it's sort of a public relations thing that I wanted to prompt you on. There are two regional air quality monitoring stations in the area here. There's one at the Air Force Academy, and the other's here in Manitou at the high school football field. And they typically, the readings are fairly close, but not quite. Locally, last year, we had 4 days that exceeded the maximum tolerance for ozone. It's not as bad as Denver and north of there that had 33 bad days. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that can be done. I mean, the local sources, that is Colorado sources, account for maybe 6 to 9% of the ozone level. A lot of it comes from exterior sources. And the biggest problem that the West has had has been forest fires in the last, few years. So it could be that we hear this summer that the ozone levels are bad and that the monitor in Manitou is, reading bad numbers, but there's really only a whole lot, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. So, okay, I think that's it. Is there anything else? Okay. Any questions? Judith?
Not a question, just a comment, and it's a comment I've made every year that I've been on council, so I wouldn't want to break with 3 years of tradition and say that the Route 36 bus data shows that there's over 21,000 riders in 2019. And that bus only runs 5 months out of the year, from basically May 1st to I think September 30th. And I'll say again that until Manitou has a better local mass transit system, I think it sends a really bad message to our residents that we basically are saying, we want to provide this shuttle during tourist season. But as the minute tourist season stops, that bus is gone. And I held my tongue because I wasn't sure if the marijuana ballot initiative was going to pass. And we might have to really tighten our purse strings, but it didn't. And I think that this council needs to look at providing whatever we decide to do in the very near future. Someday we might have an electric vehicle trolley, but until we do, I think we're doing a tremendous disservice to the residents and citizens of our town by saying we only provide that bus to that area of town during tourist season, and the rest of the year you're on your own. So it upsets me. It's upset me for 3 years now. And so I just wanted to say again that I think we need to take a look at that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Other comments or questions? Okay, if not, let's move on. So the next item is presentation. This is a PowerPoint presentation that the police had at their 2022 awards banquet. This is last November. I was pleased to be there, and I was pretty impressed with the presentation and the direction the department has taken. So tonight we've asked Chief Otto to come down and do an encore performance here for council's benefit. Chief, good evening.
Good evening, sir, members of council. Just going to take up a few minutes of your time, tell you what we did here. In November 18th, we had the best of my knowledge, a first ever award ceremony for Manitou Springs Police Department. We had it over at the Craftwood Inn over at 404 El Paso. Fantastic place. I mean, I was completely blown away how they made that place look. It was awesome. The food was awesome. Everybody, when I say everybody, I'm talking about the cops, their wives, husbands, everybody dressed very nicely. It was a very classy event. I was very proud of our department, and I want to thank you, the city council and the mayor, for supporting the police department in my time here. We couldn't have done a lot of the things we've done in the last year or so without your help. So I do thank you for your help. I don't have a clicker for that thing. Okay. And we had Alex Treffry. He narrated the awards, but they're long. So I'll just go through everything really quick and you guys can get back to your more pressing business. Michaela James, Alex Rathbun received the commander's commendation. Real quick, I'll tell you, it starts out on the commendations. You have the chief's commendation, commander's commendation, and then spot awards and things like that fall underneath. A couple of the other awards I'll talk about when we get to them. Corporal Anthony Laura, he also received the commander's commendation. What you have to do to get one of these is you have to go above and beyond. It's not showing up to work and doing what we're paying them to do. It's going above and beyond. Our officers have been doing a lot of that lately, so you're going to see a few of the same faces getting different awards, but Corporal Laura, he did get one as well. Sergeant Hoover, real quick on what he did. Last year, we had we didn't have too many of them last year, snowstorms. He came across a family that was in need. They were out of money. They had little kids in the car. He took it upon himself to get them lodging for the night, get some gas in their car. He did this all out of his own pocket. That's an example of the kind of officers we have working here. Officer Strider, Mandy Strider, she's our SRO. She got the chief's commendation. She worked a lot of high profile cases to a successful conclusion. We helped her there, and he was a sergeant at the time, Alex Rathbun, supervised her, helped her through this, and we did close 2 or 3 very, very high profile cases. Bill Ewell, he's our part-time civilian evidence technician. He is the one I leaned on. I used to redo our evidence facility. I know we've talked before a bunch about how it was in such disarray. He went above and beyond. He really, really did a fantastic job. He's one of these type of people anyway that's very handy. Cars, building and all that stuff, and he put it to good use, and we have a top-notch facility up there now because of him. Officer Gary Johnson, I think everybody knows Gary because of the beard. Gary saved life. Quite simply, there was a car that had crashed up on 24 by Cave of the Winds. Gary crawled through broken glass into the car to apply a tourniquet to the driver's arm and saved his life, saved him from bleeding out. Again, Alex Rathbun, what he did goes hand in hand with what I've talked about with our mental illness stuff and our crisis intervention training and our co-responder unit and all that stuff. He actually talked the gentleman down from jumping off one of the bridges and actually put himself in danger to keep this individual from hurting himself. This award didn't come from anybody in the apartment. It came from the department, but the recommendation, I received a phone call at home the night this happened, about 10, 11 o'clock, to brag about what a wonderful job. And they weren't with this agency. They were from an outside agency who were out on the call with him. On how fantastic he did. Very impressive, outstanding job. Medal of Valor, Sergeant Hoover and Officer Schilke, they were awarded, and this is our highest medal we give out in police ranks. This is an award that is given for officers that are faced with a life and death situation. And unfortunately, in this case, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. They were involved in the shooting where a man lost his life last summer. I will tell you, and I think I've said this before as well, they did outstanding in conjunction with the deputies from El Paso County. They followed our policy. They worked well with an outside unit. We did end up losing one of the deputies' canine animals, but these 2 officers were fantastic, and they prevented through their actions the loss of life to some of the people that were outside watching this unfold. So they did a fantastic job. We invited the deputies that were involved in this incident. Deputy LeBaron and Deputy Hancock. Deputy Hancock was the canine handler. That's his dog Jinx. We gave a Medal of Valor to Jinx, a ceremonial thing, which I can tell you it choked me up, and I'm not easily choked up. How appreciative Ronnie was, Hancock. The dogs that are with these officers and deputies, they become part of their families. They work with them, they live with them. They're family members. They were very appreciative. We were proud to have them there. Unfortunately, we know what happened with Jinx. But everybody on our side, other than the gentleman who was killed, came out of it okay. And that is it. So to wrap it up, it was a fantastic time. I was so impressed. I can't say it enough from the Craftwood down there. That place looked fantastic, lit up with the Christmas lights. And of course, there was snow on the ground. Food was fantastic. Very, very nice night.
Thank you, Chief. And since I was there, I'd like to relate that several times when Chief was making the presentations, he referred to community policing and the role that the police have with the community. And in particular, I was impressed when you talk about Officer Hoover, finding the distressed family a place to stay. And I think he also helped move some of their possessions and so forth, used a police vehicle, a truck to help them move and actually help the people out. So in Chief, as I recall, you cited that as a good example
Yes, sir.
of what
Perfect
community
example.
policing is about. So that resonated with me. I think that's what council was hoping to see on your watch, that we get to the community policing, really good relationship between the police and the citizens.
Thanks, sir.
Right. Council, I'd like to open up to you for comments, or if you have questions.
Just thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Very much. So happy that you're here leading our police department. Thank you.
Well,
so
thank
much.
you. I appreciate that.
Chief, thank you very much. And if
Thank you,
you,
sir.
I have a quick
sorry,
thing.
go ahead,
Could you
Natalie.
just share the date and time of the next, the Crystal Hills neighborhood?
This, the 19th is Thursday. We missed the day, Thursday. And we're going to be doing it at Manitou Springs High School Media Room at 6 p.m. I'm waiting for you to say, yes. It is 6 p.m. at Manitou Springs High School.
Thank you.
All right.
Great. Okay. Chief, if you'll carry our appreciation back to your
Thank you, sir. I
staff,
will.
we'd appreciate it.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Okay, on to business. We have resolution number 0423, a resolution adopting an updated universal fee schedule in January 2023. And let me go ahead and read the next item too, because it plays into it. Resolution number 0523, a resolution adopting an updated universal fee schedule for the planning department section on March 1st, 2023. And again, we have Becca back to walk us through this. And Becca, if you would kind of explain the thinking behind having the March 1st resolution while you're at it. Okay, thank you.
Well, every year, normally at the end of the year, but due to the planning zoning code update, we pushed it back to January. We update our fee schedules, going to the various departments, asking them, are these fees still correct? Do they need to be changed? So the very first resolution is just the annual fee schedule change. Now, the second resolution is because a lot of the planning zoning code doesn't go into effect until March. So rather than bring it back in March to replace the planning section of the fee schedule at that time, we thought to be more efficient to bring the annual and then also the changes for the zoning code update that will take effect in March, bring that also in a second resolution saying that that will go into effect in March.
Thank you. Did you have other remarks you wanted to make or? Or do you want, we could just move it to any kind of questions council has unless you want to explain anything?
Did you want to?
Nicole?
Nicole is our expert on the fee schedule.
We had several questions. Let's see, to start off with, there was a question on how the $250 per day crew of 3 came about. And according to Dole, one person at 8 hours at $30 per hour comes to $240. So this is really quite a discount. 3 people at $240 then would be $720. Said that primarily when there is a need for this type of service, it is hired out because we don't have the staff to provide that for all day. So it's kind of a wash to have that on the fee schedule when we require them to go and find outside services for that. But if we wanted to make an adjustment to that, that could be done.
Can I just note that usually the people that use that are like the school districts, the very small parades. It's not the marathon or those groups. They have to go outside. So it's just those very small little events that we have.
Thank you.
There was a question on the on short-term and long-term rental inspection fees as short-term and long-term permit fees, which would cover the cost of inspection if one is needed. The existing short and long-term rental inspection fee is $100. And Hannah is proposing that the requirement permit renewals be $120 under the fee schedule that's effective on March 1st. So that was another one of the questions that we received on the fee schedule. Did we have any questions on the ambulatory services? I do have some comparisons that they've done in the other community and how they came across with that payment, if you want that further information.
Would anyone like to hear that?
I have a question about that.
Okay, go ahead, Julie. Go ahead.
With the ambulatory services, is there also a provision, if I recall correctly, that while the city will issue its invoices, we will only be accepting funds from insurance and we will not be going after any citizens individually? At least I think that's what we were told at the time when the ambulance purchase proposal was given to us by Keith Buckmiller. Is that something that's also, I mean, I don't know that you would necessarily note that in that detail in a fee schedule. And I even hesitate saying it publicly. But I think that was the idea. Is that, did that carry through?
So the fee, those prices that were given, there were two different, just basically two different services. So the one with paramedic level and then with an EMT level. And they're not allowed to ask for additional money for individual things like bandages or whatever. It's basically one fee for one fee for another. As far as billing goes, it's going to go through a third party and go through what they're necessary. I don't know if that's going to come back to citizens. I mean, that comes back to everybody when you get medical services, that it is your responsibility.
Oh, I realize it's our responsibility. I guess this question is more directed to council than to you, and then at this point. So do you all remember that?
Yeah, Julie, what kind of, I remember, I think the moment you're talking about, yeah, I think Keith Buckmiller had said that they were hoping to not charge Manitou residents additional, they would just accept the insurance. I think that's what you're talking about. But I don't think he said that they were committed to that or sure that they would be able to do that. I think it was kind of a wish more than a commitment. So I suspect that things will have to get worked out and they may be a little much to wish for at this point, but it seemed like the sentiment was a good one.
Thank you.
Okay, and then additionally, we had a question about the noise variance, and the noise variance is based off of an ordinance that is already in effect. And so if people wanted to have special circumstances and apply for noise variance, it would still have to go through some steps to be approved. It's not just a thing where it's on the fee schedule and you can just get it.
Julie? I'm sorry, Judith.
Thank you. That was my question. I was concerned that if someone obtains a $30 noise variance, and let's say they're at Soda Springs Park and the neighbors complain, do the neighbors who might be affected by this, will they be told, I'm sorry, this event has a noise variance and therefore they've paid $30 and, we can't do anything about it? That's my concern with the.
Right. And anytime there's a noise complaint, we still have to have people look into it, because there's one thing to get a variance and there's one thing to take advantage of it. And we have had incidents where things have been too loud here at the hall and we've had people call in and complain. So I can't eliminate that. There might be complaints. I don't know what further to provide for that.
You answered my question. I just wanted to make sure that if someone was abusing the $30 variance, that this residents had a course of action to
Well,
take.
and it needs to be approved before they are given that variance as well.
Julie?
At one point, we were talking about the cost for Manitou to pay our own employees to clean up a problem such as trash, where the owners of the property don't get the trash cleaned up on time. And Denise, you were saying something about wanting to make sure that the amount we're charging each hour truly reimburses the city for all of the expenses involved, and not just the salary, but for everything. Is that incorporated into these changes that you have here under neighborhood services?
They went up by $25 for each.
Is that sufficient, Denise?
Yeah, we put them up last year. You guys voted on that specifically. So that's already been managed based on your vote when we were doing the trash. And then they went up an additional 25. So yes, that's been managed.
So now that we have the 5% raise and all of that, this will still cover everything.
Yes, it should. And if not, we'll come back at mid-year if we find that that's not covering. But right now it looks like it's going to. So yes, that's the plan at this point.
Okay, because we'd know by now, right? We already know like what the health insurance will be for the employer's share and all that stuff. We are, okay. Then my other question is, does this address parking lot prices, or is that completely separate?
So
Parking?
parking lot prices are included in the fee schedule, but I don't believe any adjustments were done to that.
Okay,
on
then
this
I would like
particular-
us to have a discussion about that. Because the whole idea of the parking fee was supposed to be, oh, I'm glad you're here, Roy. The 85% rule, which didn't work because we didn't charge enough. And then when I complained, like, obviously $1 an hour or whatever the heck it was, isn't going to be enough for us to have 85%, to guarantee 15% vacancy. And I thought Roy said, well, yeah, let's just start low anyway, and we'll bump it up. So I would object to it not being bumped up. So Roy, can you weigh in on this? What do you think?
So what was agreed on with council is that every quarter, we look at the 3 months of occupancy, which we just ended December 31st. So we're currently looking right now at the occupancy. And then we will base the next increase going into February. And it's just automatic. So we go in and put the increase based on what was approved by council, the increase either 50 cents per hour or 25 cents per hour, or even a possible decrease if an area is not being used. So currently the plan is to get a memo out to council by February to tell you of the increases and decreases in Manitou Springs. And that'll be done every quarter until we find that magic number that hopefully helps with occupancy levels.
Oh, so that's why the dollar amounts are same right now, is because you're just going to have to compile that and update it in February?
Correct. It won't be changed on the fee schedule. It's automated that we just change it automatically in the system. So it gives us that leeway in the fee schedule that we just change it based on the occupancy levels. So automatically, we will just change it in February. We'll let you know what the change is. And then the next 3 months, we'll evaluate again and then make a change again. And we'll just keep on going until we finally hit that occupancy number.
Are you going to change it enough where we hit the occupancy number in the next few years?
The agreed price was 50 cents max going at a time per hour and 25 cents, either 25 cents or 50 cents, depending on occupancy levels. So we would just go up that amount each quarter until we reach that
Unless-
number, which no one really knows until we
I
reach it.
see. Unless we decide to bump it up faster, but that's something you'll allow us to weigh in on in February. Is that right?
If council wants to review the parking pricing program and but currently the way it stands is we do it quarterly and then we go up either 25 cents or 50 cents or even decrease if an area is not being utilized to try to encourage more use in that area. So that's what had been agreed upon by council. If that needs to change, then we need that direction and approval.
I'd like just to reiterate that I don't think 50 cents an hour increase will have the impact we're hoping it will have. And I'd like us to be a little more assertive about it so that it'll actually work. But we'll talk about that another day. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no
Yeah,
other questions about this, so thank you, you guys.
okay. Do any other questions or comments on this? Judith?
Just one, and it's relating to the water and sewer rate increase. And I'm just mindful that this is an expensive town to live in. And while the water and sewer rates, as you've broken them down, seem pretty minuscule, when you look at them, I'm just saying, as we move forward to think about Manitou as a town that wants to provide affordable housing, I'm just wondering if you keep data on when the water and sewer rates fees are increased. Do you keep tabs on the delinquency rate and the number of people that are struggling to pay that water bill? And do we have in place a system where if someone can't pay their bill, that there's a fund or something like that? I'm just concerned. I mean, I know a lot of people, even in my neighborhood, who've been really struggling to pay their water bill these last few months. So anyway, if you could just talk about that.
So one of the things with the water enterprise system is it needs to run like a business and it has to be self-sufficient. So we have to keep increasing rates in order to cover the costs for the water department. Right now, these increases are 5% based off of an ordinance that was done on our last water and sewer rate study. We have another one that is coming out here in a couple of months that will be presented. As far as water programs, we don't have anything for relief. Most of our low income people are actually renting usually from somebody. And with the code, water follows the property. So if somebody does not pay their water bill and they subsequently move, then it leaves the land homeowner in charge of that bill. So we don't want to go any further out than 2 months delinquent before we start proceedings. Now, if people are on the LEAP program, they can get some water relief once a year through the low income water assistance program, but that's a one-time thing, and we're not sure how long the funding will stay available for that. So those are the considerations that we have to have for our water rates.
And again, just to reiterate that I think this council is very mindful that when rates increase, landlords typically turn around and pass that on to their tenants. So then when rents go up. So I know there's not any quick fix, but I just want to put that out there that I know I'm not the only council member, that we're very mindful when these things happen, that it's affecting some of our residents who may decide not to live here anymore if they can't afford, either the rent increase or the water increase. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
There was also, and I shouldn't probably throw this out right now, but maybe we also refer people to West Side Cares when they need some type of water assistance. It might be good for us to make some contributions to that.
Natalie?
Yeah, so, you know, we've highlighted on page 20, that piece about the second citation after 2 hours for parking on the street and failure to pay expired meter. And I'm just wondering, I don't have an issue with this, but I'm just wondering, as we're sort of tracking data, if we could sort of track what type of person is getting this violation, if it's kind of the scofflaws we're hoping to catch versus like the 80-year-olds who might not have noticed that they need to pay. And so I don't know if that's something worth monitoring. Because I just have this feeling that, you know, folks are going to park and have their day and get $100 parking citation and have no idea that they were doing anything wrong. But maybe I just like to track that if we can. I'm assuming they would come here and complain, and I'm assuming we kind of track complaints.
So do you want to track each complaint, like age,
I would just say
color,
that,
creed?
well,
What-
no,
what
but
do
I'm
you
just
wanna-
saying that,
What do you want them to track, I guess? is
that
what
I'm
saying.
guessing, and I could be wrong, that someone gets a ticket and they come to the parking department and say, I feel like I was issued this ticket incorrectly. I'm assuming there's some paperwork that goes into that, or just the person on hand just decides in the moment whether or not they need to pay that citation.
Maybe I could speak to this just a little bit. Actually, Roy, it looks like you're really the expert on that. So why don't you take it?
Well, we get complaints. Many times they write them on the ticket. So they do tell staff at the window. And many times, like I said, they do write them down, or when they do it, they pay by website, then they also put in their comments. So we do get complaints, and we do get the comments on how they feel about the ticket and why. So we can track some of that. Some of that we wouldn't want to publish, but other stuff we could track some of that, and probably have some that we could get together, kind of see what that is.
I'm just saying, if there's a trend, I'd like to know. If there's no trend, I don't need to know.
I think age and things like that would be hard to track, and probably not something we would want to do. But we could look at what the complaints are, maybe, and try to figure out if there's a better way to communicate things, something like that.
I guess I'll just add, I periodically get, calls from people. They're upset. They've got a parking ticket, and you can imagine this doesn't really, they're upset to begin with, and we talk a little bit, and a lot of times it seems, most of the time it seems like, yeah, they were in the wrong. I don't necessarily tell them that. If they have any kind of extenuating circumstances, I'll say, if you want to talk to the parking people and take your case, to them, they'll listen. And then I'll typically, after I get off the phone with that person, I'll try to give Kevin a heads up and say, you may want to do a little background investigation before this person calls you. And sometimes they've already have called him and they didn't get the answer they wanted, so they call me. Yeah, I never tell anybody that we'll forgive a ticket or that we won't prosecute or anything. And that's up to parking. That's if we're going to be fair, let justice be blind. But generally, some people they're calmed down a bit, just being able to vent and talk about it and realize what the situation is. You do get some hotheads, and they just don't calm down for anything. They're upset. They're gonna sue the city. They're gonna whatever, they're gonna rain down hell and fire, but I mean, all you can do is say, thanks, have a good day, and pay the ticket, so.
And I do want to add that they just want someone to complain to often. They just want to be heard. As far as people who have ongoing problems, our parking people do talk to them. It's not something that they're not aware of. And then the real problem people that have outstanding tickets also get the boot.
Council, any further questions or comments? Mr. Shada.
Yeah, can we go over on page 2 of the short handout? This little one,
The
two-pager.
March 1st.
Exactly. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So this is the resolution with the planning department specifically for March 1st.
Okay, so these are for March 1st, right?
Yeah,
For
yes.
discussion for March 1st.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So it's just a heads up.
So, right, we just wanted to make sure that they were separated so that you could tell which ones were
Okay.
going to go
All right.
into effect
Got it.
right then. And I also want to add that thank you for our last fee schedule when you questioned the street charges for concrete, because that was a typo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, now that one for March 1st, that is being approved tonight. So if you have a question, then definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah,
bring
well,
it
I
to
do
us.
have a question. So on the bottom of page 2, it seems like there's a whole bunch of brand new fees that apparently didn't exist before. Is that correct down there in the bottom, other permits?
So it says like home, it's in red, it says home occupation permit, short-term rental permit, long-term
Right,
occupancy.
all those
permit.
things down at the bottom there.
So some of this is, Hannah has changed the wording on it, so it's not necessarily brand new, but how it's being presented is brand new.
So how do we compare that and analyze what's happened with that?
If you have questions and you don't feel comfortable.
Well, I
with
guess
this
what I'm wondering about,
resolution,
then just step me
fine.
through each one, home occupancy permit, what was that before?
You know,
Mayor?
I think some of this, they may have moved things around. I believe there was like $100 fee for a short-term rental inspection. Under, like $100. And I think that was deleted from the first document, the one that will approve, which will go into effect before March 1st.
And it
And
looks
then
like
later
it's
there was
actually,
carry over to add
on this
something.
particular one, it looks like it's the revocable license was what it was previously. That's why it's under here. And so it's the same dollar amount. It's just changed names. But
Mayor,
for the short-term rental,
can I suggest, since we are on H1, and now we're moving on to H2, if we're going to go into that kind of detail, maybe take care of H1 with
Okay.
a motion and then go into H2.
And
and go into
that
more
makes
detail.
sense. Okay, so council, if we could limit the discussion here just to resolution 0423, that's the fee schedule that go into effect very soon. John, are you okay with waiting till the next item? Okay, so then relative to the resolution in front of us, 0423, do we have any further questions or discussion? If not,
I'm ready to
I,
make a motion.
okay, please, Judith.
I move we approve resolution number 0423, a resolution adopting an updated, universal fee schedule in January 2023.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Fortune. Any further discussion? If not, let's vote.
Seven to zero in favor.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll move on to the to resolution 0523. This will be the additional changes for the planning department that'll go into effect on March the 1st. So John, you want to pick up where you left off?
So the first one here of home occupancy permit, as I understand before, that was tucked under the revocable license, correct? Okay, all right. So that one there really, so I'm going to write that there. Then the short-term rental permit, what happened with that one there? That's $350. Is that also one that I have to look up somewhere that changed before? Short-term rental permit, $350 is the new fee. Did that one just get rearranged from somewhere else?
I think that this is an actual increase for that.
And then is the next one down, then the renewal for that? Is that correct?
The renewal. So the
Okay.
renewal would be 120 for either
Okay.
one.
So then can somebody remind me about what this long-term occupancy permit, and also with that one there, it looks like that is a new one, or did that one just get renamed?
John, I think if you if you look at page 27 of the larger document, near the top there, you'll see rental inspections. We had $100 fees there and we deleted those two. One was for, it was an annual short-term vacation rental. The other was an annual long-term lodging rental inspection fee. So I think I remember that this was getting wrapped into, maybe we're just calling it a permit, but I think that's carried over into the March 1st document.
So you're on the top of page 27 or 23?
27.
27.
Mayor, may I make a recommendation?
Yep, please.
Hannah
Denise.
could not be here tonight. She started her vacation today. So maybe we postpone this until Hannah can be here and can explain this in detail. We were trying to get it done through to just have it completed to be able to start. We will need to bring it before the March 1, whenever the code update goes into effect. So maybe we look at bringing this in February, and I'll ask Hannah which date works for her. And then she will be able to answer all the details.
So can we just postpone it until that time? So what time can we postpone it till?
Can we just say postpone till the February timeframe, and I will check with Hannah on which date works for her. Does that work for you guys? It has to either be the first or second week in February, and I don't know which one. Can we do it
Well,
that way?
I
Judy,
think
or do we
have
need to set a
postpone
date?
to a
Specific.
date certain.
Okay,
Yes, we
let
need
me-
to be specific on what that date is being
Let me
postponed to.
check real quick.
Or otherwise it has to be reposted, right?
Right, yes.
How about February 7th? February 7th, could we do that?
Yeah, the anticipated agenda for February 7th isn't that involved, so that would be it seems like an acceptable date, assuming
Well,
she can get
if
it
it would
together.
help for clarification, then I guess I'd like to move that we postpone this until February 7th.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from council? So the motion is to postpone this matter until February 7th, and Hannah will be here to answer questions.
Thank you.
There's no further discussion. Let's vote.
Seven to zero in favor.
Okay, so the matter is postponed until February the 7th.
Mayor, may I just ask a question
Oh,
before we
sure.
move
Certainly.
to the next thing? So Denise, is there, if I would like to know when this comes back on February 7th, if there's a definition for home occupation in the code, so that I can see what that applies to? Because there's a lot of people who are working from home part-time or full-time for their work. I would assume they don't have to pay a fee, but I just wanted clarification on what comprises a home occupation based on our, presumably we have a definition somewhere, just so we know. And then it looks like also, am I correct, that we'll be given, if there were existing fees, we'll be told the existing fee as well as the new proposed fee. And if there is no existing fee, such as, I don't think there's a long-term occupancy permit at this time, right? So just to show 0 to 350, or so we know.
Yeah, she'll put together a sheet that shows what the new, how things have changed accordingly. It's a little bit more complex than say here to here, but we can say this item and this item moved to this item. So we'll have her work on that and make sure that it's as clear as mud.
Well, and also if she could give us definitions, so home occupation permit, temporary or use permit minor versus major. If we could be given those definitions when she comes back, so we have all the info together, that would help me.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay, any further comments on this subject? Okay, all right, great. Becca, Nicole, thank you very much. That was helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, well, so maybe we'll be out of here before our customary break time. Next item is to receive or act on council correspondence. Anybody have anything? So I'm going to start over here. Actually, Julie, do you have anything? Okay, great. Natalie?
I kind of have a question. Are we going to be working on an annual report again this year?
Yes, it was supposed to be done. Alex was hoping to have it done today, so it should be published in the next 5 to 7 days. So yes.
Cool, because I just know the dashboard and the sustainability list. We've got some impressive things to share this
Yep.
year, so.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll be getting it out. Alex talked about it today, but I would say in the next 5 to 7 working days.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. John? Nothing, okay. Michelle? Judith? Okay, Nancy?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Public Works for coming out. I had a elderly couple who was concerned about the glacier in front of their home. And Public Works came out and dispersed it. And what I found particularly good news about it is not only did Public Works help them out, but they came back and said, thank you. And also said, we're going to cut the bushes down in front of our house so the sun can get to this spot more, because it's a continuous project or a problem. So I just thought it was very exciting to hear them report the problem, but also do something to solve the problem that, you know, we don't see that as often as I'd like. So thanks.
Good point. See, the only thing I have is I just wanted to remind council that we're planning on doing a Saturday work session. That'll be February the 11th. It'll be here. We'll start at 8:30. We kind of follow the format that we've used for our Saturday work sessions. And we will not have a meeting then on February the 14th, that Tuesday night. So that's Valentine's Day. Anyway, so for your planning, you've got those dates. Okay, city administrators report.
So just to let council know that the storm team is ready to go. If the storm hits, they're predicting maybe 6 inches. So we'll see what happens. So they're ready to go on 12-hour shifts and continue as needed for snow and ice mitigation. Number 2 is the shuttle transit study will be completed this week, and we'll have some information out hopefully by next week or the following week on the transit service in Manitou Springs to help make some future decisions. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Denise?
I just got a text from Alex that it will be available February 1st. So it's the great thing about technology. I said 5 to 7 working days, but it's February 1st. The annual report will be out.
Great. And that's all you have, Denise?
That's
Good.
all I have at this
Okay.
time. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. So we have one more item of business. It's a call to be handled in executive session. So let me read that. Executive session to discuss a personnel matter regarding an employee pursuant to 5.1A of the Manitou Springs Municipal Charter. The executive session concerns the annual performance review of the finance director. So if I would accept a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Okay, second, motion by Counselor Johnson, second by Counselor Wolf. Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Seven to zero in favor.
Okay, great. Thanks. Let's go ahead and take a couple minutes here while we transition into executive session.